almost all innovation in every part of the world only comes from the startup world. Examples I give: Walmart didn't innovate retail, Amazon did. NBC, the big media companies, didn't change media, Google did with YouTube. NASA or governments didn't change satellite launches, SpaceX did, Elon Musk did. General Motors didn't change cars, Tesla did. I have yet to find a really significant area where large innovation, not counting small innovations, happened because of a large company. So almost all the burden of innovation in India lies on all of you, and I'm so glad to see so many hands go up. I also want to say what's really heartening is about 3 years ago, I would almost never see a hand go up, especially if I ask the next question, how many of you were working on a product startup? Quite a few hands go up. Yeah, see, it's amazing. You couldn't see a hand 3 years ago. 2 years ago when I spoke at NASSCOM, you saw a few hands go up. And they had a special session on product-oriented startups, like it was this niche. And so it's really rewarding to see. And I suspect 5 years after the 1,000th startup in Bangalore, and I have to say there were more entrepreneurs in Delhi, at least at this meeting, than there are here. So that was heartening. Delhi is not known as sort of the entrepreneurial.
I think the definition of entrepreneurship is a little broad and nebulous.
But it's really great to see so many hands, because I think 5 years from now we'll see some really successful deals, and I suspect 5 years after our 10,000 startup we'll see something as large as Google happen, hopefully in India. So in that sense, especially in this day and age of gloom and doom, I'm actually an optimist. Turns out, over the last 30 years of doing this, I've found that gloom and doom times are when the best companies, the biggest companies, stop doing their most innovative work, the best people leave and do startups. So gloom and doom times are especially good times for entrepreneurs to start companies. Obviously, funding is hard, but when funding is hard, entrepreneurs test their plans more. They actually think about their plans much more, they get more critique, they become better equipped to solve the risks of a startup. So let me go back to answering your question. Let me answer the question you expected to me to answer, and then give you a broader answer. I think the way the question was framed, what areas are interesting and hot? Clearly, mobile and internet continue to be exciting. Lots of new ideas still popping up. If you look at new things that have happened in the last 5 years, things like Pinterest or Dropbox or Airbnb, those are really interesting ideas. But let me talk about a couple that most people aren't thinking about. I'm completely amazed at the level of activity in mobile health. And why it's particularly relevant to India is, I think we can slash the cost of healthcare by 90%, eliminate 90% of the things doctors have to do, and improve the quality of care at the same time. Now that may take 10 or 15 years, but my bet is it'll happen in places like India, which is short of resources like doctors, more than it'll happen in the West first. So I suspect health services delivered through your mobile phone will be better quality than you might be able to get in the West. And so cheap that they're almost free. That's one area. And we can come back to it if there's more interest in it. It's interesting to see just in the last 3 or 4 days, I've seen 4 or 5 plants from India in that area, which is encouraging too. The other area I'm pretty excited about, the traditional IT-related areas, because there's lots of other areas, and I want to talk about those, are machine learning, data mining, what used to be called artificial intelligence. For the first time, we have enough computing power and we have enough data to actually make those systems both viable, inexpensive, and subject to testing against the vast amounts of data. And it doesn't matter whether you're trying to build a driverless car like Google is. That's a machine learning problem. Or you're trying to replace a campaign manager for advertising. We have a company called MetaMarkets that intakes today 30 billion events a day. Based on that, decides on ad exchanges which ads to buy and resell based on the inventory. They can uplift inventory by 2 to 5 times because they have 30 billion new events a day and they use it for predictive analytics on who's likely to click. It's just like stock trading. Data mining companies like IAST, started by a guy called Gurjeet Singh, who's a PhD in math from Stanford. One of the more brilliant guys I've seen met in a long time. Are applying themselves to discovering new drugs based on genomics, applying themselves to finding terrorists, applying themselves to better search for oil and gas resources, almost any area you go. So that's some of the new areas that I see popping up. Along with this, you're starting to see a lot more sensors, which are generating even more data that feeds then these predictive analytics, machine learning engines. So I think that's going to be a very, very rich ecosystem the next 10 years. And I would suggest that in the next 10 years, this is a fuzzy area, it's hard to define, will cause as much change as mobile has caused in the last 10. So imagine another new mobile-like ecosystem pop up. I think that'll happen. That's why it's a rich time for entrepreneurship. But giving a very long answer to a short question, for those of you who are not in IT, every single area I've looked at has been subject to innovation. We have 3 new engine companies. One just started, a Chinese company is building a $200 million engine plant to do a new kind of diesel engine that would do more for oil consumption in India than any oil discovery. Somewhere between 15 to 50% more efficient as truck engines. Also can be applied to car engines. So that's one example. At the other extreme, we've invested in a new kind of candy that's healthier than your bad candy. So M&Ms or chocolate bars, Milky Ways, these are more healthy than that. One of our more fascinating startups is inventing a new kind of meat, because meat production is both very expensive and very inefficient environmentally. To produce a kilogram of red meat in the US is big, but I suspect for commercial raising of lamb and others, it's the same thing. It takes 15 kilograms of corn and 3,000 liters of water. That's what 1 kilogram of meat takes. When a process is this inefficient, it can be reinvented. And we have this great Stanford professor who gave up his job and said, I'll reinvent all animal husbandry on the planet. My point is, and we've just funded, I was talking earlier, a rocket launcher out of New Zealand. My point is, no matter which area we look at, whether it's agriculture, food, engines, rock space launches, we're about to launch a new satellite. or health, which I've talked about, reinventing health. The world is ripe for